Is it Rick doing it? Okay. Give me the next one quick. Hurry, I'm going to run out of storage.
24.
Okay, go.
It's a
It's a graph. But it has an equation with it. What's the equation?
Y equals negative 0.2. And then there's a parentheses.
Yeah.
And then it's x plus 22 times x subtract 6.
X subtract what?
15.
15 like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you think this negative 2 really matters all that much? No, it just tells you the direction of the graph. So because it's negative, it's actually going to come up and go down. Okay? But there's no x with it. So therefore, it's not truly a variable factor. Okay, you understand that? It's a factor, but it's not a variable factor. So therefore, I don't have to set this one equal to 0. Right? Because it already is equal to 0. Let's say this is y is 0. Can I divide by negative 0.2? Yeah, I can do that. What does it give you?
0.
So then it's still this. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't make any difference. Now over here we had a variable with it. So it mattered. But here we don't have a variable with it. Yes?
What if it's like positive?
Doesn't matter. As long as there's no variable with it, right? If there's a variable, then we'd have to set it equal to 0. But if there's no variable with it, we don't have to worry about it because it'll just divide to the other side. And 0 divided by anything is still just 0. You with me on that? Now, what are these right here then? Those are still set equal to 0. So, x plus 22 could be 0, or what? X minus 15 could be 0. So where does it cross the x-axis? And by the way, you can see this on the graph. Where does it cross the x-axis?
Negative 20.
Negative 22, or what? 15. And you're done. That's all you do on those. Okay? The thing in front is just telling you how steep it is and what the slope type of thing is. This is like a slope, only in a parabola rather than a line. We'll get into that later when we start doing graphing, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, give me the next one.
29.
29, what do we got?
5n to the 6th plus 2n to the 5th.
To the fifth
Yeah.
equals what?
That's it.
Oh, and it wants us to factor it.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is what we call, and you might want to write this in your notes, common factoring. That's the first thing we're going to learn, and that's just what we're learning today. Common factoring. It's just like letting cows out of the corral, out on the mountain. You and your neighbor both want to let as many cows as you can out on the mountain, but you can't let out more than your neighbor. You can't let out more than your neighbor. So how many cows does your neighbor have? And how many do you have? So how many can we let out on the mountain? We can do 5 each, right? N to the 5th, out on the mountain. That means we factored them out of our corrals and let them out on the mountain. What do you have left?
1.
You have 1 cow left, and your neighbor has no cows left. You're done.
What?
This is the farm. And let 5 cows out on the mountain. He's going to let 5 cows out on the mountain. So we're factoring out of 5. By the way, guess what's really happening? We're really dividing these by the common factor. What's the common factor? N to the 5th. You're dividing them out. So when we're factoring out, we're dividing out. By the way, does that make sense? If I was to distribute, what am I doing? I'm multiplying in. So if I'm going to factor out, I got to what? Divide. So when you're asked to factor, you're really dividing it out, right? So I'm dividing both of those by n to the 5th. That's my answer. Now, by the way, if I distributed it, what would I get back to? The question. Did you see that? If I distributed the n to the 5th in, I'd get right back to the question. So that's called common factoring. You take what's common and divide it out. That's all there is to it. You might want to put that in your notes. Common factoring is when you figure out the common factor and you divide it out in front, creating a distributive problem. Okay? You divide it out in front, creating a distributive property type problem. Okay? Let's do the next one. What's the next one? Tell me what the next problem is. You're done, by the way. That's the answer.
Negative 28r equals 4r squared.
Negative 28r equals 4r squared. Is that it? What number is this?
36.
Okay, I want to keep the r squared positive. It just makes things easier on me. I always want to keep the highest exponent positive. So should I add 28 or subtract 4r squared? You can do either one, but to make it easier, I'm going to add 28r. Because it's always easier to keep the leading coefficient positive. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. 0 equals 4r squared plus 28r. Now what do I want to do? Factor. What's the common factor? What will divide both of these terms evenly? R and what else? 4. Very good. So I'm going to put 4r out front. That means I'm dividing each term by what? 4r. What will it leave? R plus, because I already took one r out, right? This r divides one of those r's. That leaves an r. 4 is divided out. But I divide this one by 4r. What will that give you? 7. That's my answer. Equals 0. Now, because it's equal to 0, how many factors are there?
2.
How many things are being multiplied together? 2. And they both have a what in it? A variable, so I got to set each one equal to what? 0. 4r equals 0. And r plus 7 equals 0. Now what? What should I do here? Divide by 4. And my answer is? What should I do here?
Minus 7.
And my answer is?
Negative 7.
Boom, done. Okay, got it? Okay, which other one was I going to do with you? That's it? Okay, I'm going to let you try 39 and 40. They're a little bit hard, but they're not really that hard when you look at them. Okay, you can shut up.